What's up? We're gonna go out today and talk about the mods, the 3 mods I've done to this car to get it to the 700 horsepower mark. So I don't know if you watched the last video at all or not, but it was kind of an introduction to myself and the car. I did it with my buddy Corey, who is Tall Guy Car Reviews on YouTube. Check him out. I'll link to him in the description down below. But yeah, we kind of introed the car and talked a little bit about it, and we touched briefly on some of the mods that I've done to this car. Now, I didn't get too in depth. I wanted to kind of take and break it down for you in a separate video as to what we did and what worked and didn't work, and what I chose for parts and why I chose them. So check it out. We're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna get to a spot where we can get outside the car and kind of take a look and see what's going on. All right, so let's check it out, see what we got going on here. It's actually really nice out today. It's been pretty shitty out lately, Minnesota here. It's been raining like a crazy for the last, I don't know, three weeks off and on. So anywho, so here's what we got going on. We got the 3 mods. First one I'll talk about is I did Supercharger. That's an A&A kit. I went with A&A simply just after I did a bunch of research. I did a bunch of forum digging, and I have friends who have run Vortec head units, so that was my choice. Now, another one I was looking at was ESC, the East Coast Superchargers. They use a Paxton head unit, and I know that's a great kit as well. I've looked at both, I've seen both. You hear conflicting things, you know, from both, which one is better. I knew Vortec. I had buddies that have run it back in the day and still run it, and I thought, you know, what the heck, I'm gonna go with that. I've heard their support is great, and the kit is really nice. I mean, you can see some of the, you know, tubing down here and everything. I got the Blackout Kit. The Blackout Kit is an extra $300. I want to say all in all, the Supercharger kit was about $5 grand shipped to me. Here's a blow-off valve for it down here. They have 2. I went with the quiet one. You can kind of tell why. It blows off a lot when you're not in boost. It's making noise, so I didn't want something, you know, making noise all the time, and I've heard it was annoying. And the guy who built my car, actually, I tried to go with the louder one. He said don't do it, it's annoying. So I trusted him, and I didn't go with that. So the second mod I'll talk about briefly here is the LT control. That's the methanol injection system. That I didn't know much about going into this. I knew what it was. I'd never looked into a system. I've never run it on a car before. So Carl, CJ Tunes in St. Paul, Minnesota, actually recommended I go with the LT control kit, and that's what I did. I'll show you. That's actually what used to be the washer fluid jug is now the methanol jug, and actually my controller and everything you can see right there behind my screen hidden. So it's nice and hidden. Everything looks factory in this car. If you were to get in it and sit down, you'd never know it had all this stuff done to it until you hear it run. This little LED right here is actually the light that tells you when it's spraying methanol. So you get a red light when it builds pressure, you get a green light when it's in full spray, and it kind of lets you know when it's spraying. It does not spray a ton. Sprays when you're in full boost. I believe it's regulated off of fuel pressure and boost, so yeah, it does its thing when it needs to, but you can drive the car conservatively and not spray methanol at all. So that's using the windshield washer fluid jug. You can see the lines coming through here. It's got its own pump, and then you can see the nozzle down there is where it sprays into the intake. The methanol is basically used to keep the intake temps down. It keeps the temps down. It keeps the fuel system supported. So I'm running factory injectors, factory fuel system, factory fuel pump. And as you know, this isn't a Z06, so it's a little lesser fuel system. So that methanol helps supplement the fuel supply. Cooled the intake temps, allowed us to add, you know, more timing and whatnot when he was tuning the car. And I talk like I know a whole bunch about the tuning. I don't. That was all the magic of somebody else, and hopefully we'll talk to him in the future when we do some more mods. Then the last thing I chose, I went with the Kooks 2-inch headers here. I originally ordered the smaller ones and they were out of stock, so we actually ended up getting the 2-inch ones instead, and I'm glad we did. I was a little bit concerned. I thought that we might lose a little bit of boost with the bigger, you know, with it breathing more, and we actually didn't. So it worked out really well. The car actually performed really well. So just on the blower and the long tube headers, we actually made, I want to say, about 600 horse. I can't remember how much torque, but that was before we sprayed methanol, before we turned up, you know, the timing, before any of that. So it was performing really well on just a blower and headers. And I've got, which you can't see, it was pictured in the beginning of the video. I shot I threw up some pictures. There was the X pipe and then the headers and the hole underneath the car. So that's all catless. I'm catless because in Minnesota we don't actually have to run, well, you're supposed to, but we don't have emissions, so I can get away with it. And you know, on that note, the Supercharger, that is a TI head unit. They have three options. There's an SI unit, a TI unit, and a YSI. I went with the TI, which is middle of the road. It is basically good to, they say, I don't know, around 800 to 900 horsepower. They say the SI is good up to 7. That being said, I don't think, you know, there's people that have conflicting numbers. Well, I made more on my SI, or I'm, you know, this and that, but you know, that's general rule of thumb when you're looking at the head units, that the SI is good and somewhere in the 7s. The TI is going to be good, you know, somewhere in the 8s, and then the YSI is for the big boys, 1,000 horsepower cars, you know, plus. And it's all subject to what you've done. You know, everybody's setup could be a little different. Your dynos are different. Some are running Mustangs, some are running dyno jets. This car was dynoed on a dyno jet. You know, and your tuner, if you have a good tune, I mean, that's the world with these cars. So I happen to have a really good tuner because we saw absolute high-end numbers for the 3 mods done to one of these cars. So yeah, that's TI Vortec head unit, A&A kit, Kooks 2-inch long tube headers, the 3-inch catless X pipe, and then factory NPP performance exhaust in the back. So I have the valved stock exhaust, as you can see, and you can obviously tell by the tips where the path of least resistance is there, and you can see kind of, if you look really close, you can see the valves on the sides there of each of the ones on the far outside, and I've actually got them flipped wide open all the time. They're open. I pulled the fuse just to leave them open, and it's fine. It doesn't bother me. There's a little bit of drone when you get up into 7th gear, but it's nothing I can't deal with, so I've just left it that way. If I were ever to go on a long trip or do any type kind of touring, I would probably put the fuse back in, because I don't know if I'd want to listen to the 7th gear drone. I mean, what am I running? 1,400, 1,500 RPM at, you know, 70 miles an hour. So that would get to be a little much. So, yeah, I'll post links to all the vendors of all the parts that I got for the car in the description below. So, like I said, I went A&A, TI trim, the Blackout Kit, alky control, methanol system. This is single nozzle. They offer dual nozzle as well. It's like a $60 option. I'm going to end up needing the dual nozzle because when we make any more power than this, we're going to need the added fuel. So, and then Kooks headers, Kooks X pipe, and you know, there's Texas Speed, there's American Racing, there's a bunch of good companies that make exhaust. The only reason I went with the Kooks is because I know Kooks, I know their quality. I've seen them before, I know their fitment. I've heard fitment issues with some of the other exhaust companies. I'm not going to put anyone on blast, but I've just heard some, you know, horror stories and nightmares and such. So I ended up going with them. They've got all the nice fasteners and stuff that doesn't back out, you know, once you put it in, and it's good stuff. It's quality. I mean, you pay for it, but you get what you pay for, you know. So I've no issues. We put this car together, put it on the dyno. I've got to have 1,000 miles on it, and it's acting just fine. We, knock on wood, haven't had a problem yet. It drives, and it's, you know, you get in it and you can drive it around like it's a daily driver, and when you want to get nasty, you can get nasty. So let's go for a little spin. All right, let's go. Saying, you know, it's, you know, pretty highly modified. I mean, we took the car from 465 crank horsepower to over 800, you know, with the modifications we did, and it's still extremely streetable. This car has never gotten hot. I haven't seen a problem with the oil temps yet. I stay right in that, oh, we're out of gas. I stay right in that, I don't know, let's look at it actually. I've got the track mode set to pull up those gauges. So we are at say oil temp when I beat on it, I get in the let's see. Oh, come on. Yeah, I get in the probably like the 200, 220 range. Trans in this car never gets warm. It's A, it's manual transmission, and B, it's got the Z71 package, which has the trans cooling and the differential cooling and everything, so that never really is an issue. Car's never gotten hot. The coolant temp, 220 all the time. Oil temp never creeps, so I mean, we beat on it pretty hard. You'll see that in some videos. We'll have some roll racing videos and some other stuff for you to look at coming up here, but yeah, I mean, I can be pretty hard on the car, and it just takes it, and it likes it, so you know, and then you can drive it and be pretty tame with it. Then when you want to not be tame, you just and it makes all kinds of racket and goes like crazy, so super fun. I can say I've never had a car that every time I drove it put a smile on my face until I modded this one. It's really fun. It's kind of unsuspecting because, yeah, you know, it's a Corvette. People think they're, you know, they're sort of fast or whatever, but you get up on people and car guys and stuff, and they've got their thing, and they come up on it and they're, oh, stock Stingray, and they'll mess with you, and it's kind of fun to unleash the fury on them when they're not suspecting it. So if you're not hearing the blower blow off and you don't hear the whine, you can't really tell what's done to it, so it's kind of fun. It's kind of although a vet, kind of a sleeper vet. You know, and all in all, I want to say the blower kit was about $5,000. You know, you buy them online, you don't pay tax on them, and then a little bit of shipping. I can't remember what that was. The exhaust, full Kooks, the headers, the X-pipe, that whole setup was about $1,800. And then the alky control kit is, I want to say $640 or $650ish. So, you know, total in parts, when you add that up, you get, you know, about $7,300, something like that. So it wasn't terrible. And then, you know, I didn't install it myself. I had it installed. I had it tuned. Lancer Service in St. Paul, Minnesota did the install. Carl Thomas, CJ Tunes, did the tune on it. He's a really good GM guy. I'm not sure if he messes with other stuff or not, but he does a lot of CTS-Vs, a lot of Corvettes, a lot of LS-based stuff, and he's great. So he tuned this car, and we were actually really impressed by the numbers. So yeah, it's been good. It's putting down the power fine. I did have to switch the tires out. I had some kind of janky Michelin Pilot Super Sports on it. They were like the factory tires, and they were already kind of beat up. And when I got the kit installed, I still had those on, and I just blew them right off the car. I mean, we're third gear on the freeway. I'd just roll into the throttle, and it'd be up in smoke, you know, and trying to get all wild on me. So I actually put a set of Mickey Thompsons on it, but we'll talk about that a little bit in the future too. As far as wheels and tires go, I'm about to switch out the daily normal tires on it as well, the ones that I run when I'm not running the ET streets. So we'll talk about, you know, what I go with that, and just kind of see where it goes. I'm kind of toying around between a couple tires, but we'll make a decision. We'll check them out, review them, and see how they work under 700 horsepower. Also got more mods coming, and then tomorrow night, me and my buddy Mike are going to actually lower this car on the stock bolts. The wheel gap in it is just horrendous. I'm not a big wheel gap fan, and I don't know why they have so much wheel gap from the factory, but it's nasty. It's off-road style, so we're gonna bring it down a little bit. I do have aftermarket lowering bolts. We're not gonna put those in right away. We're gonna try to drop it fully on the stock bolts. We'll measure it before, measure it after, kind of see where it sits, and if we're happy with it, we'll leave it. If not, we'll tackle that next install. So stay tuned. More stuff coming at you with this car. Plus, we've got a little bit of an old school build going on right now. I've got a 1950 Chev that is actually had the top chopped by the legendary hot rod builder Gene Winfield. So I've got some clippy videos of that. I'll throw into a video sometime here, and then we'll show you the car. It's in another body shop right now getting finished, so we'll talk about that. We're gonna bag that one. So yeah, more to come. And well, that's about all I got for you today. You know, questions, comments, throw them in the bottom. We'll try to address them. Like I said, you know, more mods to this car to come. I can't leave anything alone, and I'd really like to see in the 800s for power, so we're planning that out right now. Not going to touch that till after the rally. You know, the graphics you see on the car for that Crown Rally, we're going to go on in June here, so we'll leave the car alone until that's a 1,000-mile rally, so I don't want to mess with that. We'll leave good alone, and then when we come back, we'll see if we can make it even more angry. Also, you know, check back. We're going to check on my 1950 Chev that's in the body shop and tell you the full story behind that whole thing and the build and what's going on with that. So until next time.